Hello, my name is Rick Radia, Product and Partnerships Manager at AudioTelligence. I'm here today with Andrew Bellavia, founder of AuraFuturity. Andrew has been deeply embedded at the intersection of hearables and hearing health, frequently speaking and writing on topics related to innovations in hearing care, devices and delivery. He's also a strong advocate for the proliferation of hearing care globally to combat the worldwide pandemic of untreated hearing loss. We're very fortunate to have Andrew with us today, where we'll be discussing the role of BLE Audio and Auracast in the future of the hearing care industry. Thank you so much for joining us today, Andrew.
Oh, I appreciate the invitation. It's my pleasure.
So, Andrew, firstly, would you care to explain to our viewers what Bluetooth LE audio is and how it differs from previous versions of Bluetooth technology?
I would be glad to. They actually differ in several key respects that'll greatly improve the experience for end users. The first one is that it actually uses the low energy channel of classic Bluetooth. That's what the LE means. So in Bluetooth Classic, there's a streaming channel for music or phone calls, and there's a channel for data, and the data channel is the low energy channel. You may have been using it without noting it because, for example, my Garmin watch will transmit to the mobile phone my running data through the low energy channel. But with the new Bluetooth, the low energy channel is also used for streaming audio. So that will improve the power consumption and increase the battery life. Another is the way audio is actually transmitted. In the original Bluetooth, both the left and right channel would be sent through a single stream. This is fine for headphones where you have a wire connecting the two ears. But for true wireless, it was a problem, because both channels would be received by one ear, which then had to get the other channel to the second ear. And so you could have dropouts from one ear to the other, or you could have synchronization issues, so the stereo imaging wouldn't be just right. A little bit of a workaround to try and get stereo to work when there were no wires between the two ears. Well, the new Bluetooth actually transmits two separate signals, one for left and one for right, so that each ear can receive the stream independently and also very tightly synchronized. So the music listening experience will be much better. A third difference is the latency, the amount of delay. Now, there are a couple of different modes, and it also depends on the chipset being used, but as a general guideline, you could take the latency of Bluetooth Classic to be between 100 and 200 milliseconds, right, whereas LE audio will be more in the range of 20 to 30 milliseconds. And that's really important for synchronization of the visuals with audio and movies. And also when you're doing a mixed reality experience, and I'll share some details on how that works, the lower latency will be a key advantage. When listening to music, the audio quality will be higher. A new audio codec was created for LE audio, and it's called LC3. And the perceived audio quality is much higher with LC3, even though the data rate is about the same and the power consumption is lower. And probably one that will be the most meaningful to people of all, despite all these other advantages, is much easier pairing. Everybody who has trouble pairing their Bluetooth, all raise your hands right now. Right?
I'm here.
It's all of us. It's all of us. And the new Bluetooth standard will be much easier pairing. So it'll be very convenient to connect to different devices throughout your day and gain the advantages of using LE audio.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. That's such a great overview. Bluetooth LE audio will have a significant impact across the board, and in particular in the hearing industry. I would love to understand more about the limitations of the current Bluetooth protocols and why Bluetooth LE is so important in the hearing industry.
Okay, let's break that down into two parts. One will be Auracast, which we'll talk about separately, and that's the broadcast audio. But let's talk about base use cases within hearing aids. So most modern hearing aids, except the most basic models, can stream from a mobile phone for taking phone calls or listening to music. But because Bluetooth Classic was too power hungry and the latency was too high, proprietary systems were developed. There's one for Android called Asha, and there's one for iPhones called MFI. And so hearing aid companies had to create their devices to use either one or both. The same thing is true with accessories. So each hearing aid company has created their own proprietary protocols for accessories that overcame the limits of Bluetooth Classic. So these are things like TV streamers and remote mics. And so now you have this kind of hodgepodge of different proprietary protocols that have to be accounted for. Without standardization, it limits innovation in those areas. And it can also be frustrating for hearing care providers who have to, deal with different accessories for different hearing aid models, different connection methods for different mobile phones, and so on. And so the hearing care provider and the patient experience will be much smoother with the new Bluetooth technology.
That's really interesting, because I think from our experience talking to hearing care providers and end users, there's a lot of frustration when it comes to devices that are currently on the market that use and rely on proprietary protocols. So this standardization is going to make a huge difference to the user experience and improve the options that are available to a user as well. Being able to select from one brand to another rather than being tied into an ecosystem of products from a particular brand.
No, that's right. I think it will really open up a lot of innovation, because if somebody develops a better method of picking up individual voices, focusing on people, reducing the background noise, they can introduce those innovations, and everybody, whether hearing impaired or not, can use it. I may be normal hearing in terms of an audiogram, but still have difficulty understanding people in a loud restaurant. Well, I can use ordinary consumer earbuds and use that tabletop microphone. So since the customer base is much larger and it's a common standard, it will really open up innovation in device development and in accessory development. Even there are probably use cases we're not even thinking of today, but the way is clear for those to be introduced.
Absolutely. And this is why we're so excited about Bluetooth Low Energy Audio and Auracast as well. So from our understanding, the hearing industry has been a driver in the development of Bluetooth LE. What impact can we expect in the short term and the long term as companies start to integrate this technology into their devices?
Well, in the long term, I think it's really about Auracast as much as anything else. With Auracast, a device can broadcast a signal rather like an ordinary radio that any number of people can tap in and listen to. There's no pairing at all, actually. Just select a channel you want to listen to, and you're off and running. And so Auracast can be deployed in any number of public places for people to use. An Auracast transmitter will be much less expensive than the old telecoil hearing loops. So for people who don't know how hearing loops work, I'll describe it. Say you have a house of worship and you have 3 sections where people sit. Each one of those sections would have a copper loop under the carpet that goes around the entire section. So because you have all that copper, just meters and meters of copper in loops, it can be very expensive, easily tens of thousands of dollars to install one of those. And you can only have one channel in any building or any room. So you can't have 2 separate loops broadcasting 2 separate signals. The hearing aid would pick them both up at the same time. So it's fine in a house of worship or, say, a movie theater where you only have one audio stream. But take a sports bar, for example. If there's 12 televisions in the sports bar, wouldn't you like to listen to the audio stream coming from that match over there?
Definitely.
Well, with Auracast, you'll be able to do that, because the transmitters are so much less expensive. Let me give you an example. I'm talking to you now using a little Rode microphone. This is its duplicate. This device can transmit up to 200 meters, more than 600 feet. And that's using very similar transmission system as Bluetooth. So you can see you can get enough power to go very long distances with something this small. And 2 microphones and the receiver to go with it were about $300 US at retail, with lots of extra features that you wouldn't need for an Auracast transmitter. So you can see it's very inexpensive, can be small, and can have a very long range. And so it's not difficult at all to put an Auracast transmitter on every television in a sports bar. And then using a mobile phone app, you simply pick which television you want to watch. It will send a signal to the earbuds to configure a channel, and you're off and running. You don't need your mobile phone anymore after that. You can put it in your pocket and enjoy the match. And just like I can do with my hearing aids today, you can also mix in real audio. So I'm at a table with my friends. We can all talk and still get the audio stream for the game. Now, you'll start to see that employed in a lot of different places. There are a few metro areas who have put them in their train cars. So you're riding the metro and you can hear the station stops, but it's expensive to do. Now with Auracast, it wouldn't be expensive at all. Imagine, even if you're not hearing impaired, it can be very loud on the metro. So a lot of people use noise canceling earbuds. Well, if you use noise canceling earbuds, you don't hear the station stops anymore. On the other hand, if you have Auracast with the earbud tuned into the Auracast transmitter of the car they're riding, they could be listening to the music, they have the noise cancellation on, they're enjoying themselves, but the station stops are coming through the Auracast. So lots of different places this can be used. Classic kinds of places where hearing loops are used today, like movie theaters and houses of worship and, playhouses and the like. But also think of airport gates. Anybody could receive the airport gate announcement no matter where they're sitting within the gate area. Okay, lots and lots of different applications. Even you can see it happening where you go to a museum, and each gallery in the museum has an Auracast transmitter you can tune into. There are just numerous applications. And I think what's really key here is hearing loops were developed for hearing aids. And so their deployment has been more about accessibility, and you always have to balance this. Of course, in some places there are regulations where it's required, but you're balancing cost versus the number of people who would use it and so on, okay? Now, if you take Auracast, anybody can use it. Not just hearing impaired people, but anybody with an Auracast capable earbud. And so that means many, many more people will be tuning into the streams. And that benefits hearing impaired people too, because the user base is much bigger. There'll be far more deployments, and hearing impaired people can also take advantage of those deployments. So now this is going to take a long time. I would say 5 years minimum, and probably 10. Before there's broad use of Auracast transmitters in different settings. But once there'll be so much availability of Auracast, much, much more than hearing loops ever. And so that'll be a big benefit for hearing impaired people as well as people with normal hearing.
I mean, Andrew, what a great response. I mean, you really brought to life how Auracast and BLE audio is going to change how everyone, not only the hearing impaired, are going to experience the world. From those use cases you're talking about in museums, theaters, at the metro, at the sports bar. I just think how we all are going to interact with the world is going to change thanks to this technology.
I think it's also important to note that for a hearing impaired person, the best way to receive the audio is directly streamed to the hearing aids versus, for example, listening to a TV speaker. Because when you're watching TV, you get room reflections and there are other noises, and that all impedes the audibility of the sound. When you're getting it streamed directly to your hearing aids, the sound is much more understandable.
Right.
And so as more and more devices become Auracast connected, it makes the experience much better for a hearing impaired person. Televisions, game consoles. Imagine you're in a conference room with a long conference room table, and it's a hybrid meeting. So you've got, 7 or 8 people sitting across the long table. And then you've got a TV with remote people, and there's a conference room speaker sitting somewhere on the table. You're on the other end of the room. You may very well have a hard time hearing the remote people talking through that speaker that's, 5 meters that way. Well, if that conference room speaker is also broadcasting Auracast, I can simply tune in directly, and I can get much better sound for the remote people, while at the same time still hearing the people around me at the table. So just lots and lots of different ways Auracast will be applied for all people, hearing impaired or not, and improve their experience.